Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And welcome to another edition of Monday Mini, where we talk about random things and put a little bit of statistics in there, or facts, or news. We try to make it a little different from our happy hour, because it is a personal take or something that we're thinking on. And then we do pseudo research, meaning like we don't do a lot of in-depth research, and or maybe come from an article that got us interested in it, however, whatever. So just to explain what the Monday Mini is again, because I think everybody's like, what is this? Just a small episode? Okay. But today, I thought I would make a switch because my last happy hour was really sad. And unfortunately, right now, with the seasons and the holidays, I'm not the happiest person, most joyous person in the world. But I thought I'd take a minute to actually reflect on things that do make me happy. And as a reminder of things that can give you good support and happiness. And that's friendships, specifically female friendships or friendships with other women. And I'm not excluding anybody of the non-gender binary, any of that. We're including trans women in this. We're talking about people who would see themselves as femme, because I think there's a specific energy and vibe in that. So when I say that, I'm meaning all. This is including all. So go ahead and put that at that very beginning. Of course, we know there's a lot of TERFs out there. There's a lot of people who have a lot of prejudices, and they have nice messaging with sometimes really awful hearts. So I say this because a lot of these things that we talk about when it comes to friendships and keeping friendships comes from blogs. And you never know what these people, that wrote these blogs, their real personality is. I think about that often when I'm thinking about like feminists first as well, or feminists around the world, that we don't know. They may have good intentions in one of these things, but some of these things are not pretty.
Right.
So just as a kind of a caveat to all of this.
Yeah.
But straying away from that to the good part, I think it's really important that we talk about the friendships that happen and how important it is to have friendships and holidays. Of course, I think we can look at things like Friendsgiving. We have a good thing called Friendsgivmas in our group because we could blend in both Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because it gets a little difficult trying to get together sometimes. And so blending that in, but having opportunities to celebrate the seasons together with just friends or found families, as we like to talk about. And if you just listened to a couple of weeks ago, as this comes out, we had the amazing Raquel Willis on the show, and something she talked about when I had asked her specifically about finding the balance between transparency versus activism, and then also self-preservation and knowing that you don't owe people your stories. But like, how do you keep the balance? And she talked about friendship, and I really, really loved that point. And it did remind me, I was like, oh yeah, like keeping people like you, Anney, in my life. Like, you just talked about the joy of wearing your Life Day sweater, and I love that. And I'm like, man, I need to use that as an example and find something like that for myself, where I just find some of the, like, something that's personal to me that I can put on physically and be like, this makes me happy. I will say cardigans do sometimes, especially at the beginning of fall when I get to actually wear it. I did do a dance. My partner was like, okay, you're ridiculously happy. And he understands like why, for me, that brings me a little bit of joy. But, stuff like that, it's like, oh yeah, things like that are nice. So I had that good moment. Thank you for giving me that. But just the friends of this time of year is really, really important. In general, I went through articles about femme friendships and why they're important. And here's some of the things researched, y'all, because it's like years and years and years of research. And I think the last 15 years has been beautiful, where the tides have turned from don't be that, I'm not that type of girl, and be a girl's girl and know what that means. And I love them. Yeah. So one of the things they talked about is emotional support, the benefit of having support from friends when things are down, whether it's like lifting you up because you're sad about something. And so they try to help you understand why you're sad, or distract you, which both of those things are beautiful. Validation, having friends who understand and appreciate you just for you and giving you that confidence. Oh, and by the way, this was from a blog. That was researched. They also found research for it called The Power of Female Friendship. And it's from Grace.health. So I don't know much about Grace.health. So don't take that as a
Right.
like I'm advocating for it. It's just they had good research. So once again, talked about shared experiences. Yeah. I think especially when you have old friendships that you've had for years and you can look back on things and laugh till you cry type of situations, knowing like I explained something to my partner. I ran into a friend that I haven't seen in like 5 years, literally out of nowhere. And it was really lovely to see her. And I say this with all like so excitement. And it literally shocked me to the point that I'm like, you don't live here. Like, it sounded like an accusation, but it was more of shock. And that's all I could say because I was so, like, confused to see her. But I just brought back some of the memories I had of her and who she was and how joyful it was. And I was explaining to my partner about her. And it was like, you know, that smile of moments of like, oh, that's shared experience. Because I lived with her as well for a year. So it was lovely to see her. And I thought about that. And then, of course, the accountability. I will tell you, people who keep me accountable are some of the best. Caroline from the previous host is one of the best ones to keep me accountable, but she does it in such a way that it's so good. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. I did that. My bad. You know, like stuff like that. Yeah. But it keeps you as a better person and as a better friend, which I want to be. And I love everything about that. Of course, the laughter and joy. We all know that that's a great benefit. I love listening to Anney talk about her stuff and then just watching her laugh at herself. And then I'll make a joke and she'll laugh at it too. It is a delightful moment. And then me laughing, watching her laugh. Or I will say I do laugh when she cries at shows like Last of Us. And I enjoy every bit of her love for it.
I enjoy that you enjoy it.
I literally pulled up the video of you saying, this is me before the episode of this, Bill and Frank episode, and this is you after, and me laughing in the background. Like, it's just, the love you have for that show is amazing. Yeah. And it talks about improving your immune function. And I have a couple of articles that talk about that it actually has higher levels of a particular antibody that helps to fight off infection. And this one is from a flashback.com article. I really don't know who they are either. But it is written by Kate Leahy, Leahy. Again, not necessarily advocating for them or anything, but I think she did an amazing job with this article. But she actually wrote, most surprisingly of all, female friendships are actually good for your physical and mental health. Researchers at UCLA found that female response to stress can be reduced after a release of oxytocin, which came when surrounded by their female friends. In another study, it was found that valuing friendships influenced better health among adults. And the head of psychiatry at Stanford University in the U.S. said one of the best things a woman can do for her health was to, quote, nurture her relationships with her friends. And then goes on to say, it's noted that women who are around their female friends see an increase in release of chemical serotonin, which controls your mood and is responsible for happiness. And studies have also shown a strong link between human attachment and good mental health. And I feel like these are all obvious, but it's also exciting that they did do the research for it, specifically among women in that level. I will say yesterday was really sad. If you heard my happy hour a week ago, it wasn't cute. But like, it was a lot of things that was going through my head and I was kind of spiraling. And then last night I decided to go to work out, and I made really good friends when I go work out to these places. We just connect on a very like superficial level, but it's joyous. It helped my mood so much to be around them, to do something together, to enjoy the music. The teacher there, DeMarco, he's an amazing guy, but like I like just connecting with friends again. And the women that we get to hype each other. It's one of the best things. Hyping one another up, I think, is a whole different level. Especially being on a superficial level, just enjoying their personality is nice. And I definitely see that kind of level of like serotonin rising and feeling being able to like calmly sit instead of watching the world burn. And then I was thinking about this again, specifically with the holidays. We were very stressed. I am very stressed with this. And I was thinking about the people who have lost families. I talk about not having a connection, and that does feel like a loss to me, but truly losing, grieving over families who have died, passed on, who you have cut off all connection with, and how that really is this holidays are a painful, painful time, especially if you feel alone. And there was an article written by Rebecca Brenner for the Times, and it's titled "The Revolutionary Power of Female Friendships During the Holidays." And she specifically talks about the loss of her mother. And she also talks about the fact that she doesn't do the depth of what her mother did, and she never will. And I appreciated that because, yeah, no way in hell I would do what my mother loves to do and also stresses out about, which ends up with her calling my father a also part of our family tradition. One of my favorite moments. But she genuinely is mad at my father for being neglectful and not helping out as much as he should. But I think it's interesting. She talks about it and she says, this holiday season, I won't cook her elaborate holiday dinners. I won't go to midnight mass or trek my 2 young kids across the country for large extended family gatherings. But I will step closer to the memory of her because of the love and the support of the women in my life. And I really thought that was a beautiful story. Like, yes, she lost a mother, but she might not do exactly what she did, and there feels like a little lost in that, but she knows where she can find that same love and level of love and care and support through the women in her life. She also talked about the 2010 study, which was written by Anna M. Martinez-Alman, entitled College Women's Female Friendships, A Longitudinal View. And she found that female friendships are, quote, a site for assessing meaning of self and of reality, a site for the experience of different perspectives and viewpoints, and an opportunity for growth through interdependency. And in a more recent 2020 study in Feminism and Psychology, found that female friendships are, quote, a site of ease, escape, and refuge. And I think it's so perfect, especially as we talk during the holidays as a stress, feeling a little bit of loss, feeling a little bit of non-direction, I guess, not sure what to do half the time. There's a lot going on. And seeing articles like this and reminding yourself, yeah, friendships are important, and it can be hard to maintain as adults with different stretches of life, but it is important to try to maintain them. And Brenner goes on, writes, and perhaps this is the best gift we can offer one another, our presence and kind words in a culture and season that can feel so transactional. Being shaped and nurtured by your people's compassionate attention feels revolutionary. And it does. And it does. And Anney, I want to thank you because you're one of those revolutionary people for me. I love you.
And you are for me. I love you too. The other day I was like smiling to myself, remembering, because I told the story recently of our disastrous lazy river attempt. But it's just like having those memories where we were literally being laughed at by the hotel staff. And an old man in a tube and a young kid in a tube.
Yep.
But we shared it together, and it was so funny. It was so funny.
It was because both of us were in the same boat.
Yes.
Realizing both of us were bad at this.
We're bad at relaxing, which is perhaps clear with this episode.
No, everybody else was confused. And they were like, but we love it. I'm like, I'm glad you weren't a part of this because that would have stressed me out more.
And then we did it twice because we got stuck in the loop.
Yep. We couldn't get out.
We couldn't.
The first time wasn't good,
tube.
but we couldn't get out, so we just sacrificed it.
We did. Oh man, it was funny though.
What a haunting.
But it's things like that, having those memories, sharing those times, like even if it's maybe, you know, like not necessarily your thing, like with Life Day with my friend, but like having that and like having those stories, it does feel like such a boost and such a light, and so precious, like so important. And yeah, I can totally see the kind of healing nature of it. We've talked about it before in other episodes too. So I am so lucky to have the friends I have, and that they're willing to be goofy with me and I can be goofy with them.
Love it. And just to the Sminty fam, If you do feel alone, I hope you hear this episode and know that we do hear you when you write to us, when you let us know what's going on. I know we got a lot of messages on Instagram specific to a lot of Anney's loves. I didn't respond to those. I'm sorry. I showed it to her, though. I love y'all. I will respond.
Yes.
But yes, we do see them. We do hear them. Those who send out support to us, that's the same thing.
Yes.
There's a healing to that as well when you hear our own struggles or vulnerability, and then you come in and just talk about your own and like validate what we're saying. It's lovely. So we thank you.
We do thank you. It really means so much. So, and I hope, sometimes I worry that it sounds like, because when you get like one bad message, and I feel like I worry that we make it sound like we're not talking to the people who are listening. I'm pretty sure the people who send those like saw a title and will send. You are all lovely, is what I'm saying.
Wait till we get these. No.
No, we get like one, and then I'm like, no.
Yeah, I know. The reviews, same way for me. I'm like, they all hate me.
No, everyone's so kind. And I do love, another thing I love about things like what you were talking about, Friendsgivesmas. I love like the traditions people make, because I have the cheese giving.
Yeah.
My friends and I used to do a gift exchange where you couldn't spend any money on it. So you would get the most ridiculous things. And I loved it. I've told this story before, but one of my favorite things was, friend of the show, Katie. It was a big bird ornament, but the legs were broken off. And I adore it. It's like one of my favorite ornaments. Because it's
Even
so weird and
better.
funny. And every time I see it, I think about that. I'm like, where did you get this?
She stepped on it and it was like, oh.
I'll give it to Anney.
My imagination that goes into, there are ornaments that you can't touch on my mother's tree. And if you break it, like, oh no. In my head, I was like, yeah, I would have taken that and just given it away and be like, no, don't ask.
Well, I don't
This
know
is the way
what
of my
happened to
hiding it.
Yes. Could be. I've never gotten the full story out of her. Maybe this year.
Maybe this year.
But yes, we would love to hear, listeners, about your thoughts about this. If you have any traditions with your friends. Oh, there's also, oh man, I meant to talk about this. Over on Savor, we did a interview with somebody who used to work at the Butterball Hotline, not a sponsor.
What?
And one of my favorite stories she told was about getting a call from a group of women in college who were like trying to cook a turkey in a crock pot and had shorted the power. Like, that is the fun memories you make.
Yep. Yep.
I love it. Anyway, if you have stories like that.
Oh, please. We need them.
Please.
We'd love to have a collection we could share for a holiday episode.
That,
please send us your stories.
Yes, please. That would be great. You can email us at stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff I Never Told You. We have a TeePublic store and we have a book that you can get wherever you get your books, and an audiobook, because some people have been asking me about that. Yes.
Yes.
And we did narrate it.
Yes.
Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
I think we need a tradition. What do y'all think? Christina, what do you think?
Yes. Yes. Ooh. And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.